So, welcome to the Late Night Shack, Effort and Grace. And we'll keep plunging into it. Let's see. Let's have, how about Bob? Well, if J. Sema can put that up, thank you. How about Bob Yeager there?
Yeah, okay. Let's see. Um, ca- can it be made just a little bit larger?
Ah, he does it, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Great. Okay. Effort and Grace, Sunday, June 8th. Topic: The Revolution of the Heart. Dear folks of Baba, we begin where we left off in our last session, The Logic of Experience, on page 7 in Darwin Shaw's book, Effort and Grace. Darwin is describing a revolution of the heart, the slowest of all revolutions that takes lifetimes of effort combined with the intervention of Baba's grace. The heart, with its massive impressional sanskaric attachment to this world, has to eventually be turned inward toward the intrinsic source of divine love and light within us. In the beginning, I loved Baba for my sake and how he would help me with my life in the world. It took me years to begin turning toward loving Baba for his sake alone. Fortunately, we have a natural and inherent longing for this spiritual revolution, and Baba is there to provide the inspiration in every moment if we open up to him. In this process, we are helped by a growing disillusionment with the world due to what Baba calls the logic of experience. We are continually being frustrated by the fact that nothing here is permanent. We are always having to acquire something new, not just the tangible things of this world, but also what Baba calls the accumulation of mental wealth, like talents, abilities, and an infinite variety of forms of knowledge. We are driven to seek a vaguely comprehended goal in this world of time and space, when, ironically, the goal itself is beyond time and space. The magnetic pull of all these worldly things has to be counteracted by a greater longing to express in the world the divine qualities within: truth, love, purity, and beauty that flow directly from Baba through our soul. There are many beliefs that we buy into unwittingly that keep us bound to the things of this world. And in the chapters ahead, we will delve into the mechanism by which we are hoodwinked into accepting these beliefs. How would you describe the transition in you from attachment to the outer to becoming more absorbed in the realities within? How have your experiences of thoughts, emotions, desires, and feelings changed over the years? Have you been more able to witness with some detachment these internal forces of the psyche as they pass through your awareness? What desires cause you to get pulled back into attachment to the world? What part does love, inspired by Baba, play into your transition into the inner life? And from Rumi, a majestic bird is soaring high up in the sky, while its shadow races along the ground. You are chasing the shadow, which is only a fleeting image of the bird. Even if you shoot all your arrows, you will not catch your prey. Do you think you will find the one you are looking for while hunting in the shadows of this world? In his love, Jeff.
Thank you, Bob. I don't know if that. So, just to say a few words at the beginning, uh, the work, as Darwin would always refer to it, is, transmuting our worldly values into the divine qualities that flow from Baba, and transmuting our reactions to life to loving responses to life. So, Baba, he'll say, like, anger is the reaction, and then the opposite is tolerance and patience. These are a few of these things. Greed is the reaction, the selfish part of us, and generosity is the selfless part. All these cravings we have, they're part of the the selfish side of ourselves, and purity is our divine side. And so all of these things, even retaliation is the opposite of that, is forgiveness. So all these things, and of course Darwin would say for most Baba lovers, the fastest way is just to focus on Baba and with his personal relationship, and get his companion and have his companions cultivate his companionship. And but even though Baba has dropped his body, his personality is eternal, just like just like Jesus's personality is still here. And the early Christian, I mean the Christians, not the early Christians, the ones in the Middle Ages, they had an ongoing, present moment relationship with Jesus. So it's it does. Oh, but anyway, so let's go on to what if you can post that first section, the logic of experience, Jacima. Now I know Paula wanted to read. We'll start with Paula, the logic of experience.
Okay, let me just get unmuted. Okay. Oh, I'm not even muted. Okay,
You're good. Yeah.
I'm good. Okay. For ages, we have been addicts to illusion, but have not realized it. In prison, but have not known it. We have been dwelling in semi darkness when, by little effort, we could be dwelling in the light. Fortunately, there are mechanisms by when by little effort we could be dwelling in the light. Okay, fortunately, there are mechanisms that are built into this whole creation process that will eventually impel us to conclude that the only important goal is realizing the truth and that everything else is a hallucinatory nightmare. These mechanisms include periodic revelations or awakenings given by the master. But the primary mechanism is a natural maturing process, our many lifetimes of experience whereby we naturally turn to the spiritual path. And this process involves disillusionment. We are like a mule. We are like the mule Othello is negotiating to buy. Does he obey? The buyer asks the owner. Sure, the owner replies. Show me, the buyer demands. The owner then picks up a big stick and starts beating the mule over the head. What are you doing? Cries the buyer. You said this mule obeys. Does, says the owner. But first you have to get his attention. Mayor Baba tells us that the logic of experience gathered through many lives drives everyone sooner or later to the spiritual path. Actually, he says several lives. But I think that for the vast majority of us, it has taken many lives. This inner logic drives everyone to the spiritual path because we learn after a while that by continuing in the realm of desires and gross thoughts and gross actions all the time, we are ourselves creating the conditions that will cause us to reincarnate again and again.
Thank you, Paula.
You.
Anyone have something to say to that? I mean, I'm sure many of us got pretty disillusioned with life before Baba. Anybody want to share their journey on that? Well, let's see here. I'm gonna
Uh,
oh, we got Shaw, yeah.
I find that I've made my life more difficult than I need. I guess my sanskara. So I don't you're not here.
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay. I was saying that I found I've made my life more difficult than perhaps it needs to be, but I guess my sanskaras deemed otherwise. But when I think back on my early connection with Mayor Baba, the feelings that I had were just so great and so wonderful, and that I'm slowly getting back to where I was in the very beginning.
You mean that you kind of had these great uplifting experiences in the beginning, and then life came along and railroaded your
Yeah,
efforts.
and
Like, yeah,
I got sucked into stuff too. Like, it didn't need to be that bad. It didn't need to be that difficult. I was like, sometimes, the first thing that you go with, if you could have just gone with it, like, but apparently sanskaras deem otherwise.
I know.
So,
Yeah.
so it seems like what we learn is that perfection always operates, and this grinding process we have of interacting with each other, there actually is some kind of sense to it. There is some kind of beauty to it, because it you know it brings us back to the heart eventually.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Anyone else want to chime in on the that section on the logic of experience? Ah, right. We can't hear you, but
There you go. So I'll jump in and I'll just say, the nice thing about getting older is that you get to feeling like you're hitting the same patterns over and over and over again. That's like the mule getting hit with a stick, right? And when with Baba, you can kind of objectify and say, oh, I seem to want to have that kind of experience, or I seem to want to interpret things along these lines. And it's just like I get a little more objective, as these patterns repeat over and over and over again. And that's very helpful. I mean, I feel like then they don't have to be me. I'm consciously aware of these patterns.
yeah. Yeah, Darwin used to say that it's like a spiral that is ever ascending. And, you deal with some problem and you work on it, and then another year comes around and you get to deal with the same problem again. And it seems like it's the same old problem, but you're taking it at slightly higher level. And then it goes around. These things keep coming around, and we get repeated opportunities to get it right. And a lot of the things we've left behind, but there's some things that are very persistent for sure. Anyway, where is Marta? Or Peter? Yeah. We can't see your head, Peter. I don't think. I
you
don't see
can't
it. But
see my head. That may be a good thing for you.
yeah, there we go.
Sir, does losing fear about something count for living in the truth? with a lowercase t.
Now that does kind of losing some fear. It's a movement toward the truth, toward a deeper section, the deeper part of yourself, if you can let go of fears.
So does that count conveying an experience that I had?
Say that again?
Does it count conveying an experience that I had?
Yeah, go ahead.
Alrighty, so this will be very unpopular. I remember when the pandemic hit, it was scary. I worked at night and all 4 major sports shut down. And I'm thinking these franchises are cash cows. If these sports shut down, this has to be serious. I need to finally pay attention to something that I'm being told. And I remember, driving around and, kept on showing up for work. But let's just say fast forward, the world shut down and it was quite nervous. And I remember going through with like kid gloves. And I remember talking to several people I knew, said, let's see when more and more truth is uncovered. And I remember at one point calling my chiropractor, who was intuitive medical, and I asked her about this virus. And I remember there was some information that I trusted about viruses. And it basically said, there's plenty of food and supplements that can kill viruses. And I asked my chiro, how do I deal with this if I get sick? I work at night. What if I do if I get COVID? And she said, take these supplements this way and you'll be fine. I predict you'll be just fine. Oh, so that means I don't have to be afraid of this thing. How wonderful. And also, I remember one day I got symptoms of something, and I was at the beginning of my shift, and I called up a mentor. And I asked him, I says, I feel sick. I feel these symptoms. And he talked to me in a way he's never talked to me before. And he says, first thing in the morning, you go get tested. That's your number one goal, get tested. And I was scared out of my mind. I was scared for my life. I don't remember if this was pre-talking to my doctor or not, but I remember a time when I was scared as a kid, when I was on a roller coaster, and I thought of a way to overcome the fear. And I was glad, because I didn't want to be afraid of a roller coaster. I said, let me take an inventory of the situation of what I can do about a virus. And I realized that there was so many things I could do to beat this thing. And I had to talk with myself because I know that there was fear mongering going on. And if I didn't feed into the fear, maybe I can overcome this thing. And I had a long talk with myself, and I had to talk with COVID. I basically told COVID, if you enter my body, I will escort you down to take a long walk off of a short pier. I won't let you have any more real estate in my body than I allow. And I yelled and screamed, told it to F off. And basically, I was calm and relaxed. I said, if I get COVID, I know what to do. And instead of being afraid of it, I learned how to be relatively brave. And the thing is, it's when I learned more, let's just say when the reporters came out about this, the reporters came and reported about what they uncovered about this virus and the protocols that were in place. It turned everything around for me, that it wasn't as deadly as it was portrayed to be. And let's just say it was turning fear into faith, that really what was being shown was a big hoax that killed a lot of people, but not nearly as many people as was portrayed, that statistics were misrepresented. And
But I got the point, though, is what you're saying is that you sublimated, you transmuted the fear into confidence and faith, which is
And that was,
part of
and
that inner work that we are stuck doing in order to get more and more inner freedom, as you said. Yeah.
and a lot of that was through not listening to conventional news sources, listening to a lot of podcasts of doctors that sounded like they knew what they were talking about, telling us how things were being done very wrongly. And they sounded like they were very intelligent, had great hearts, and they were putting their lives and reputations on the line. And it sounded like it was more honest to listen to them than conventional news sources that kept on saying the same thing over and over and over and over again when other scientists were proving that they were wrong. And I just got the gag order.
Okay.
Thanks, Peter. Richard?
Good.
Well, of course, I'm talking with a lot of hindsight now, especially after therapy with Jeff Wolverton. And that occurred over many years
You
of
don't-
separate occasions.
You never pay me though. That's the trouble.
I'm sorry, I was always broke. But so I came into this world not understanding or having a clue. I really didn't, and I was really lost. But there was something about me that I had no sort of, I'll put it this way, worldly ambition. I didn't even know, I really didn't think about having an identity. So I assumed that at some point I had been searching for God in another life, but I also brought in a ton of karma. And it wasn't lullabies, it was the other kind. But so somehow, though, and this is Baba manifesting to me, somehow walking across that campus at CSU after Rick Chapman and Alan Cohen spoke, somehow it was just like Baba tapped me on the shoulder and said, I am the reality you are looking for. And I was really lost at the time, but it was real. So that began a real life's journey. And not to go into all the details about all of it, but I was a desperate soul. I mean, I was truly desperate in so many ways. And then, of course, through Baba's, how he does it, every one of you knows something about this, but he finally got me to New York City, and where I met Tony Patinitti, and Dr. Kenmore and Anna Rose and a bunch of other people, Francesca, and anyway, Chris. I didn't really meet Larry Karish because he was studying in college. He was in Chicago, but many different people, and that was the next launch of Richard into life. And then I had to learn how to try to live in the world. I had a lot of help, but really, ultimately, it was Baba that kept my ship from sinking, And suddenly I realized that I could live in the world and there was something there. But it's taken a whole lifetime to get to the point where I'm more real. I'm becoming more aware of love. And of course, that's what Baba really talks about. I'm pretty intellectual, but I've begun to experience this thing called love. And I don't really know what to do with it, except that it is a much greater experience than anything else I've ever experienced in my life. Thank you for the therapy, Jeff.
Yeah. Sounds like you backed into love, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else, or we can go on to the next section? Anything? Yeah. Let's go on to the next section, Jacima. And Marta, see if you can find someone there.
let's see, well, I only have a few pictures on here. Gabriella, you feel like reading? Or no? You're muted, hon.
Okay, thanks for asking. A dream within
good.
a dream, yes?
Yeah.
Our lives may seem to be long and meaningful, but truly life is very short. We all have to drop our physical bodies someday. Then what happens? We go through a transitional period, and after a while, we come back into another body and do the same thing all over again. Meher Baba has told us many times that we are addicted to a mere dream within a dream within a dream. We argue with that because this life seems so real to us. He then explains that when we are asleep and dreaming, we have the same feeling of realness. But when we wake up, we realize that it was a dream after all, and that our feelings in the dream were just transitory and of no consequence. And that is the way our lives are. After ages and ages, the dream of illusion eventually becomes a nightmare for the soul. We finally experience so much disillusionment that we get fed up with being enslaved at the gross level, and all those temporary things are no longer a lure and attraction for us. Then we turn to the heavens, we turn within, we turn to God, we turn to the beloved and cry out, "What am I doing here? Isn't there something more? What is it all about? What is real?" Eventually, after numerous incarnations, we become mature enough so that we can start to withdraw our consciousness from its attraction to the world and begin the involutionary path toward inner freedom. This is the spiritual path toward reality, toward God. It is an unfolding process, a natural process of growth, of maturity, of refinement. In other words, we are growing. Sheba.
Thank you, Gabriella. Yeah, I'm just curious, has anybody come to a point where life was a nightmare and you wound up turning to Baba within? Did anyone come to Baba in that way, where life eventually became a nightmare? Looks like Paula's got her
Paula
hand.
has her
Yeah.
hand up.
Yeah.
Do you want her to speak? Paula.
We can't hear you, Paula.
Paula, do you want to share? You're muted.
Paula, you're
Still
muted.
That's the
Okay.
nightmare right there.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, we got you. Okay.
Okay. Well, it's so funny that this comes up. I mean, I don't know how many times, I'm in the middle of several nightmares right now in my life. And I would say like right now, just sick family members and it's just been really, really difficult time. So it's kind of like it's like one more thing I feel like I can't handle, It's just that kind of time right now. So I just have to kind of like I just had a chuckle because I just feel like that's where I am right now in my life, where it's just been very, very difficult handling what's coming every day. And I have a sister-in-law that's really ill right now. I've got an ex-husband who's not doing very well at all in a nursing home. And it's just like, it just is, it's just really difficult. So I just feel like sometimes my life enters that place where I just feel like it's just really hard to just get through the days. And I'm there right now. I
Oh,
feel,
sorry
yeah,
about that. I know
yeah.
Bal Kalchuri used to say, and I'm not saying that this applies to you, but he used to say, sometimes it takes a nightmare to wake you up from a pleasant dream.
It is
There's a
true.
line for you.
It is
Anyway,
true.
Okay, Anita.
Hi,
Nanaimo.
everyone. Yeah. Um, yeah, I think the nightmare thing, I liked the analogy, Jeff, that you did of the spiral, because I can really relate to that. It's sort of like these things that keep coming up and you think you've dealt with it, but then it comes up in a similar but a bit different way. And I find a lot of the nightmares that I experience, it's just like being stuck in my mind. So just that experience that you feel so contracted and limited, believing these thoughts that your ego spews out, and it's horrible. And really it kind of like it takes getting to that place of helplessness that forces you to surrender. And I think that's essentially the idea. And you've quoted I think, yeah, it was Manny's quote where before it's like she prayed for strength to Baba for strength to carry out his work, but he gives weaknesses so that we depend on him. And so I'm really like working on trying to, and it's slowly happening. I'm trying to be patient with it, but accepting these nightmares as blessings in disguise. And I know in looking in hindsight I see it, but when I'm like in the cloud, it can be very hard to see that this is like just trusting Baba in that moment. He essentially sometimes just forces you to get down on your knees and like just lay it all out. And then it does, and then grace does come, and it is beautiful, but it's a painful process. It's like ripping off the band-aid and just and trying not to resist it too, because the ego wants to resist Baba's will, and the ego just is just like, no, I want to be in this pleasant dream. I don't want to wake up. I want to be in charge. And you're like trying to control everything with your mind, but you can't. And Baba keeps throwing things at you until eventually you're just like, oh my gosh, okay, I I surrender. Or sometimes you need help to surrender, so you surrender the surrendering too, because it's just like all you can do is remember him, and I think that's our only job, is to remember him, and everything else is Baba's job.
Beautiful. I want to ask Tony. Tony, you know that quote where Baba says about, I dare not, care not. Well, I am the joy of your heart and the despair of your mind. That's a quote of Baba's. I am the joy of your heart and the despair of your mind. It's
And
hard to imagine that both are him. But Tony, what's that other quote?
the other is, and I dare not, care not for those who love me.
Yeah, but there's something like where the mind has to turn to the heart. You know that one? Oh, shoot.
There are
Meher
many, but
Prasad, do you know it?
Who?
Meher Prasad's on.
Oh, yeah.
You might know it.
Well, maybe he can look it up while we go on to Jennifer. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Meher Prasad. Okay, Jennifer.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm pretty good when it comes to personal things that are happening more directly with me and people I'm directly involved with, situations involving, I guess, my little life and family and people I work with and things. My super duper struggle right now has been in this, the dream within the dream of living in this dream, which is what I see around me, the world and everything that's happening and all the people who are being harmed. This is where I struggle. I really struggle to I give it to Baba. I look at it. I know there's some kind of plan and everyone's on their journey. And, we're all in our place doing our roles. But I still have, I'm really struggling to make sense of it and to, even if I'm supposed to, and to know where and how to participate and be, a servant to Baba, to be helpful. It's just been really, really hard for me. So I don't know if anybody has any advice, but that's the nightmare. That's the nightmare that I feel and see and don't know where to put myself in it. In terms of actions. And I know, Jeff, you talk about keeping the heart open and knowing when to, how much and when to close it off and those kinds of things. When we think about what was happening in the time of when Baba was here during World War II and how so much was happening and he was aligning and moving and shifting things. And I'm sure he's doing the same thing now. But I kind of want to help, but I don't know what to do. So that's my nightmare within this dream. So I'll leave it at that.
If I don't know if someone has to respond to you, but here's one thing that helped me immensely. And it's in the discourses where Baba says that he receives, I'm paraphrasing, he receives our song at the local level, spiritualizes it, and broadcasts it to the world at large. So even if you're not out on the protest lines or the petitioning and all of that, if you're doing your work and everything and dedicating it to him, you are actually, it's going out to the world. It seems like you're doing nothing, but actually something immense is happening through you, through your dedication. So that helps me out a little bit, because here I am just at the center, wandering around and cleaning a cabin every once in a while. What am I doing for the world, and a world that is worsening, I would say. But I do feel that, if I dedicate myself to Baba and the work that I do, even though it doesn't seem to be connected to the collective, it does go out because of Baba.
And I can understand that, and and I've heard you say that, Jeff, and I can feel that. And when I do my work, I think about that, and expanding, how it expands outward to others. And yet I think it's the doer in me who feels like maybe it's not enough, but perhaps it is.
Yeah. If you feel inclined to get out and protest, if you feel driven, that's perfectly fine too, So it doesn't mean you can find out what your heart, what aligns most with your heart, I would say.
And then I guess then the other side of that would be, like I've heard before too, everything that we do dedicated to Baba.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mayor Prasad?
Yeah, this may be the quote that you were looking for, Jeff, about the dare not neglect you. Says,
yeah.
When everything goes wrong, the mind becomes helpless and has to rely on the heart. These are the moments when you resign to my will and rely solely on my help. When you leave all to me, I dare not neglect you, and you get relief from your predicament.
That's exactly the one I was thinking of. So read that again. This is a powerful message from Baba.
When everything goes wrong, the mind becomes helpless and has to rely on the heart. These are the moments when you resign to my will and rely solely on my help. When you leave all to me, I dare not neglect you, and you get relief from your predicament.
Beautiful. Yeah. Erich on occasion said, the purpose of creation is, and he stopped, and this one guy who was half asleep kind of woke up. Well, the purpose of creation is to remind you to remember him. So all the good and bad and everything, it does certainly make us, I mean, the troubles I go through really make me focus on Baba more profoundly when things are going smoothly. I wish that wasn't the case, but but Baba does say, he who remembers his God in his hour of happiness remembers God best. So I make sure I try to remember him when things are going well so that he doesn't have to do the opposite to get me to remember him. So, okay.
Hey, Tony.
Hi, Jay Baba. So Jeff's question, I thought, well, actually, yeah, I did in a way come to Baba through it was a nightmare. Was the way you phrased it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it really kind of came home to me. I'm going to mention a book I'm reading, John and Paul, A Love Story in Songs. And it's about the Beatles, but particularly their relationship and their songwriting partnership. And in hearing about their lives, it really brought something home to me about my own. My father died when I was 9. He had cancer for several years. He was a heavy smoker. And very much like John Lennon and Paul McCartney in Liverpool, boys at that time were brought up not to show their feelings, not to acknowledge their feelings, not to be weak in any way. And so while my mother was grieving like crazy, and there was so much, there was mourning and there was this and that, I didn't, I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel anything. In fact, he died at like 2 a.m, and I got dressed to go to school. I heard, my mother sobbing when she got the phone call from the hospital. But I got dressed to go to school, and she said, "What, are you crazy? You can't go to school. What, are you stupid or something?" Very Italian American. And so I just changed to my day clothes, and I started playing stoop ball. And Mrs. Jordan, the mother of one of the girls in my class, who was one of the parent monitors, saw me, and I thought I was going to get in really big trouble for playing stoop ball when I'm supposed to be in school. There's a lot to say about it, but I guess the bottom line is I did not experience the grief of my father's passing until about 10 years ago. I was prescribed a doctor who specialized in voice had prescribed basically a narcotic to me without telling me it was addictive. And he kept renewing it, even when I stopped seeing him. And at some point I said, I don't need this. So it's not doing anything. And I stopped, and I almost had a breakdown. And that breakdown suddenly brought to the surface my grief at my father's death, like 40 years earlier. But I grew up from 9 years old till about 16 and a half, that life was not quite right. I thought I was going to be the next Beatles, and I had a band, and we had a manager, and he was going to book us into clubs in Greenwich Village, and this is when Dylan and all those people were there, and somehow one of the other band members' fathers wouldn't let him play in a club in the village. It was like nothing meant anything, and even when there was something that could have meant something, it didn't happen. I wound up having to go to a school that was a very specialized, high-status school that I didn't want to go to. Math, science, I didn't care for, but I qualified, and had a battle with my mother of wills, and I wound up, it's a whole story, but I wound up having to be stuck at this place that I kind of really hated, and thought, either I'm crazy or the world is crazy. And my mother used to joke when people would say the world was crazy that it was, that was them. So, and I began to question myself. I read books about LSD, the problem-solving psychedelic. I wasn't into I was still too young to be in the hippie generation, but I was very smart. And I read about the clinical uses that had been for depression. And I did have a good spiritual connection. And when I learned to say the rosary, which is when you do it the right way, it's this Jesuit meditation that brings you deep into the presence of Jesus at different facets of his life. And that I had connections with him. It was like inner, I was there with him. But, life went on and there were difficulties and something came up and I thought it challenged my faith. I don't want to go into the whole story. I've shared it elsewhere. And I went to that place that the rosary used to take me to. And Baba, I didn't know it was Baba, but Baba clearly heard my prayer, said, don't worry, I'll take care of it. I'm not going into what it was about. But still, now we're getting into 1968. Something felt so wrong, not just in me, but in the world. And I had the feeling that the phrase was, whatever it is that makes life life. Like there's something in life that's like life itself. It's the essence of life that makes things that are alive alive. And that somehow, whatever it is that makes life life was dying. I could see it. I'd look out my window, I'd see the neighbors sitting on the porch across the street and going on as if everything was normal. And it was not normal, and I had the sense that it could all crash into nothingness, like a dream going into deep sleep, and no one would even know. And I got a book on different mystical techniques, and one was automatic writing. And so I started to write, and you just get into a zone, and you write, you close your eyes, you don't look, but it was about what's going on, what is this? And I found what I had written was something Baba had, almost word for word, had recently said, that there is a threatening illusion hovering overhead. There was no cure for this, whatever it was. And it continued until January 31st, 1969. And on that day, I had an experience that Baba gave me. I had not heard of him. I didn't know it. But it was the beginning of the answer to that prayer that I had said in that rosary space months earlier. And he spoke at the end of it. He spoke a word, which was a clue. And there was a woman, and I was so in love with this woman. And I was just like 16. I wasn't in love with anybody. But in this experience, there was so much love, and we were separated. And it put me on a quest. And I had to find this woman, and I had to find what this word meant. The word was 303. Go figure, right? 303. It wasn't the clock radio. I checked different things. It was Baba's, and everything smashed, and life was born anew. It was born anew in me. When I went out later that day, someone rang my doorbell because he heard me play. I plugged in my guitar for the first time in a year. And someone heard it and rang my bell. It was life itself had been born anew. I didn't know how to explain that. And then I glanced over at the horizon. It was around sunset when this fellow rang my bell to join a band, invite me to join a band. And I'd been a recluse pretty much till then. And the sun was setting, and I had to stop him. And I thought, I may be going crazy because of the experience I just had. I said, do you see this? And the sun, it was like something out of the 10 Commandments. Cecil B. DeMille, as if God had splashed the sky with color. And he did see it. And we stood there looking at this for a while. Then he went home. We arranged he was going to have me come join these guys to jam the next day. And I ran for the next 45 minutes to follow the sunset as far west as I could go until it disappeared. And it set me on the quest that was the beginning, and I remembered that voice, and I remembered that word. I couldn't visualize the woman, but I remembered what it felt like in her presence. And much bigger story short, a year later, when I was introduced to Baba, I immediately recognized him. I knew he was the Christ. I knew he was God in human form. I knew that I knew him and he knew me. Um, but life came, and I did a whole bunch of things you do when you're seeking, a lot of LSD, all that stuff. But
Yep.
yeah, that
Yeah.
that was it.
Oh, good. Thank you, Tony.
Okay, Tony, Ron.
Yeah, a couple of statements of Baba's, and just to preface the idea of statements from Baba, Baba himself, in one of his messages, said, "Even what I say is not really worth anything to anybody unless they were to live up to it." So, I that's one thing I take very seriously is if I'm going to, if something like that Baba says is going to stick and really present itself, you definitely want to remember this at all times and live up to it. Then there I've got something to do. I have a practice, I have a pursuit, a purpose. And so a couple of things is that have come up listening to folks talk. Is Baba said, don't worry. My love will give you that strength and conviction that makes you feel that you belong to God. So I really like the idea of belonging to God. I'm really happy about that. And so this way, by belonging to God, I have this sense that when I say my life, which I attempt to never say, or if it ever slips out, I correct myself. Even thinking it is something I want to avoid. That's a practice that I pursue. I recommend an experiment with it if you want to try it, but by making it about Baba's life. It's not a Baba will take anybody who feels that the life is their own, but at some point, it's not a bad idea to make it his life so that you're not feeling the burden of having to live my life. It's so much better to try to help him in his life rather than always be thinking that, well, is he helping me in my life? Well, no, because it's not my life. Anyhow, just wanted to open that up for a thought that somebody might want to experiment with.
We'll keep that on the table. I think we should go on to the next section. We're going to make some progress in the book. Jay Seema, can you bring up the... Here we
Diane,
go.
do you feel like reading? Diane?
Did you call?
Yeah, do you feel like reading?
Sure.
Thank you.
Hold on for a second. This is healthy suffering, right?
Yeah.
Mayor Baba does not pressure. Hold on, how many glasses? Mayor Baba does not put pressure on people to grow. He lets them grow at their own speed. However, I feel that Baba permits disillusionment as part of the growth experience because it leads to detachment without our becoming callous or unfeeling. So we have growing pains, which lead to disenchantment, and this will involve a certain amount of healthy suffering. Initially, we are going along not contesting the flow of sanskaric determination within us. The more we begin to contest this flow with our thoughts, feelings, and actions, the more we may experience the struggle. We are striking out for truth, taking our stand on the truth within. My experiences with Baba have helped me understand and become so familiar with impelling forces such as anger, lust, and greed that when confronted with them, I would find the antidote which would vary for each person, appearing within my consciousness, and I could switch gears and transform them right away. We do not want to wait until these forces arise and become so impelling that we are helpless to control them. We need to plan ahead. Before these forces take hold of us and overpower us, we need to think them through to their end results and decide for ourselves that this is not the way we want to go. We have to consider ways to counteract these impelling forces. Redirecting them into less binding channels is one way. As spiritual aspirants, we also have to keep a sense of Baba's presence with us in these situations. My secret strategy is to become aware of Baba himself, his presence in all circumstances. He is the master of every situation. Baba.
Thank you.
Anything to say to that?
Ron, do you have more or, okay. No, okay.
I'll jump in here.
Yeah.
Good, jump in.
I think it's kind of relevant. It's a really tough time for people. I've been reading a lot of old Baba stuff where they talk about it being a really tough time. And their hell doesn't even compare to what I feel like ours is right now. And I find it really, really hard to not go from 0 to 60 in anger and resentment and abhorrence for people with a different way of thinking than I might right now politically. And that is an excruciating place to be in. So this part, healthy suffering, the fact that I had to read it, it's an interesting thing because we're told that Baba's in everyone. So Baba's in these people that repel me.
Yep.
And it is an incredible leap of faith that I believe what you said, Jeff, that while I cannot be in the protest marches, I'd been sending everybody who had the ability to go today. I live in Los Angeles. So it's a very, very hard nightmare place to be in. But also, we're here in Venice Beach. We went to the center, which is closer to downtown, but still, what was going on just 2 miles away was not part of our consciousness. Yet, the moment you leave and you look at the headlines and you see what's happening, I'm holding on to his Dhamman harder than I think I have ever in my 13 years of being with him. Jai Baba.
Yeah. And it's because of your love that it is so difficult to live in this situation. Whoop, I guess we lost her.
No, she's there.
Yeah.
You lost
Yes,
me.
I was just saying that it's because of your love that is so difficult to bear. If you were just kind of thick-skinned, it wouldn't be no big deal. You know, it would be an irritant, but it wouldn't be hit you so profoundly. I mean, I'm not saying that that's a consolation, but you know, it is very hard. I mean, the people coming here to the center are really going very disturbed by what's going on, and they have to live with it, and often quite helpless to be able to do anything here and there.
Yes, Rich.
I think that last sentence in this particular section, we know Darwin, this is pretty well written. He's leading us on and on and on into a deeper level of understanding of all this. But that last sentence, that's what I've been trying to do, if that makes much sense. But it's hard for me because, kind of like Diane was alluding to, it's like my ego you know, thinks it's in charge, but I know that that's false. I know that it's actually an illusion, you know, and but relying on Baba. So how do I have that faith? Or and so the only thing I have is some experience by His grace, some feeling of Baba in my life, and I know it kind of can come and go, like Diane said, but that's all I have to really truly rely on. And it's real. I know it's real. That's the other part. There's no question it's real. But Rich Sanders still trying to live a life hobbling along at an older age now. But I don't have anything else to say, but it is that relying on Baba, surrendering to, and Ron talked about it, you know. We're each really Baba in disguise. But how do you get that experience, you know? Deeper. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yes, Shaw.
Joy, 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 joy. As much joy as you can open to, however you do it. I used to do it in Miami by dancing. In my late 60s and early 70s, I would go into clubs with people their average age in their 20s or 30s. And I would open my heart as big as I could. And I would just dance with myself. And then as my heart opened more, I would start to connect with my soul. I would start to connect with my spirit. And as I would feel it, others would feel it. And if they weren't feeling quite as much as I hoped they would, I would go to one part of the dance floor and dance with those people, and they'd start to feel it. And then I'd go to another part, and they'd start to feel it. And one time, a club of 700 people went up in divine energy with no one saying anything, just pure opening your heart as big as you can. And I proved to myself that that's possible. So I think we need to do that for and to each other as much as we can, because this is real. What Baba showed us is absolutely real. And when Jesus said, "You will do things that I haven't done," it's true. You can. You know, your spirit is eternal. Death is a lie. It's just a transition. You know, it's just a change of clothes. This is real. Baba has spoiled us so much, and it's completely real. And do whatever you can. Like Darwin said, go as big as you can, you know, but at the same time, honor your limits, you know, honor your limits. Go, you know, if it's just reaching out to a person, you know, that you come across, that's a start. So you have to, you know, you have to go at your pace, what's right for you. But this is
Thanks,
real.
Shaw. Thank you, Shaw.
Yeah.
You know, Jeff, I want to remind you, you said we were gonna
Yeah.
keep this to an hour.
Yeah.
And it's
We'll-
now been an hour, so I just wanted
Yeah,
to.
we'll get Janet Jacobs here from Boulder.
Okey doke.
She knows
Well,
how to
this is
manage
this
Boulder.
is quick.
No, take your time.
Well, I've been wondering about what you're kind of bringing up and what Shaw just said as well. I mean, I was thinking about Baba during World War II and what did he, I mean, he did seclusion, but he also spent a lot of time seeking out musts, if I'm correct, if I remember correctly. So rather, God on earth, rather than directly interfering in the karma of humankind, he tried, this is my total interpretation, but my interpretation is that what he was doing was, you know, my understanding with the musts is he tried to get them off places where they were stuck on planes and move them forward, move them onward. And correct me please if I'm wrong on that, but that I have remembered reading that. But so I'm thinking, so I'm obviously not I'm not Baba directly. I mean, indirectly, but not like in consciousness. And I don't know, I wouldn't know a must if I found one, to be honest with you. But what can I do in my life that is of a similar that moves in that direction, and in lifting consciousness, and where I've started is with myself, to be honest with you, because I'm seeing ways in which I'm judgmental. I'm seeing ways in which I'm competitive with others. I'm seeing ways in which subtly that I haven't known about, that I haven't shown the utmost of kindness. And of course, not intentionally, but I mean, Baba is showing me, I think is what I should want to say. Baba seems to be showing me, and these are not things that I'm particularly excited about seeing, to be honest with you, but I sense that could be, that at this moment in time is my participation into the lifting of consciousness, by lifting how my own consciousness is in relationship to others. And so that's all I have to say.
Yeah, beautiful. No, I mean, we can do a lot. I mean, that's part of that whole maturing process that, that Darwin is talking about. I think of it, Erich was just over there in Mandalay Hall. He wasn't like doing anything, so to speak, in the collective, but what a great impact he made with all the different people that saw him, and it went out to the world, and people are leading more loving lives as a result of having contacted this one, well, all the Mandalay, but especially was noticeable with Erich. Hey, so here's what I think we need to kind of bring it to a close. And have we got anyone have a quote? I know sometimes Mayor Prasad has one. Mayor Prasad? Do you have?
I have that quote that you like, Jeff. Yeah. Amidst intense activity, if there is absolute calmness of mind, that is the highest love.
Yeah, read this again. Think about this. This is incredible. This is Baba here.
Amidst intense activity, if there is absolute calmness of mind, that is the highest love. Lord Meher.
Let's have a few moments of silence. Jai Baba. Anyone have another? Marta has a few quotes, but also Goer, just two.
Sure, I have one, Jeff. Okay. Baba says, God always existed. God will always exist. He is never changing, ever the same, and illusion is his eternal game.
Yeah, that was one that I think he sent out to his lovers, if I remember right.
Can you read it again? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sure. God always existed. God will always exist. He is never changing, ever the same, and illusion is his eternal game.
Yeah. Marta, do you have any of those?
Yes, I have three short, little Rumi poems. I manage fine with no others around. I cannot manage without you. My heart bears your brand. It won't wander away from you. I manage fine with no others around, but I cannot manage without you. My heart bears your brand. It won't wander away from you. The next one. There comes a time when nothing is meaningful except surrendering to love. There comes a time when nothing is meaningful except surrender to love. Third one. I once had 1,000 desires, but in my one desire to know you, all else melted away. I once had 1,000 desires, but in my one desire to know you, all else melted away.
Beautiful.
If I realize it, I've shared and it's past the hour, but I have something that I have a feeling that Baba would really like me to share right now, having to do with what we can do with what's going on in the world at this moment.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, back in the 90s, during the genocide in Bosnia, I was working at the UN in the press section, and I was having to cover this situation day in and day out, and it was so painful, unbearably painful, what was going on there. And it was like, sometimes it felt like I was seeing roaches go across the field and just infesting villages and killing all these people. And at the same time, I used to go to hear Marianne Williamson once a month at the town hall. And it was a period where she would take questions in the middle. And one of the reporters from the UN, a Finnish woman by the name of Elvi, I believe it was, came up to Marianne at the end and said, "Why don't you take this message to the marketplace in Bosnia?" And Marianne thought, "Oh, come on." But she pressed on it, and so Marianne said, "Let me think about it." And behind the scenes, without ever calling attention to herself about it, she met the ambassador of Bosnia, and she arranged to have a global moment of prayer for all around the world for peace in Bosnia. And it was to be at 12 o'clock, I think, New York time, and 9 o'clock LA, and at different times throughout the world, a moment of prayer for peace in Bosnia. And, the thing was intractable. No matter how many efforts had been taken place to try to stop it, slow it down, it had a relentless, horrible life of its own. But she came up with this idea. And at the time, I was about to go to India. So on that day, I was in Mehrabad. And more or less at noon, I quietly, with Baba, alone in the Samadhi, as it turned out, prayed to Baba. I opened my heart to what I'd been experiencing with this horrific genocide taking place, and the hatred and the suffering. And that's all. I participated with everyone else, but I did participate at Baba's Samadhi, which I felt was fortunate. A week or two later, I got back to New York. I got back behind my desk at the UN. The war in Bosnia and the genocide had stopped, completely stopped, and it never resumed again. And there was nothing in sight of anything like this ever happening. So I just want to share, at least in that instance, the fact that people joined in prayer to open their hearts to Baba about what's happening was a very powerful thing. And it could be, I'm not saying it's the solution now or not, but I can't not share that story at this time.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Let's go to Robert, because he hasn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a short quote by B.B. King. which I want to share, and it kind of sums up what Tony was saying. The quote is, "Don't give up, keep on giving."
Don't give up. Keep on giving.
Yeah.
Yes. And who's the iPhone there? Oh, wait. No, that's probably Shaw, though.
Marcia, me, Marcia,
Who is it?
Marcia. Yeah,
Okay.
okay. I have a couple quotes, but before I do a quote, God's the indweller in all of us. And all that's happening is because it's happening because of Baba. And I feel like everything that we do, he's doing it through us. For whatever reason, he's using us because when you surrender to God, you serve him and we're his lights, you know. But anyway, here's the quote. If you make me your real father, all your problems will become dissolved in the ocean of my love. And then there's one more. I have these little cards. Okay. Um, love makes the formless and infinite become informed and finite as the God. Man among men, love me more and more, because for the sake of love, I have come among you. Love me above everything, for now while I am in your midst, I am most easily found as I really am. And Baba's continually telling us, don't try to understand what I'm doing. Just obey me and serve me and love me and surrender to me. And once you surrender to God, he kind of takes care of you. You turn it over and he takes care of you. And like this whole week, I had a whole bunch of things happening just to get a refrigerator. And all the time I wanted to be angry and I let a little anger out. And then I said, wait a minute, this is not, I can't control the situation, but my reaction to it. And then there's a person across the street that parks in the guest parking all the time, right? And I put my car in that spot for 2 days to get a delivery. And he put a note on my car saying that he's going to report me to the condo association. So I got almost like enraged. What am I going to do? And I said, I'm not going to do anything because it's just, people are just who they are, and it's how you react to them and how you handle the situation. And you can change like Darwin says, you can change your channel anytime. You don't have to go with that.
Change the channel from AM to FM.
Everybody
Hey,
I know now has
yeah.
Bob something to them. And it's just to show us what we need to work on while we have the opportunity in this body and this lifetime. And just turn it over because there's nothing else you can do. It's this show. We're in the Baba show, right?
Okay, I'm switching to NPR. Hey, let's Nasreen. We can't go anywhere until Nasreen allows us.
Okay. You hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Jai Baba.
Hey,
Thank you.
Baba. Thank you,
Thank you.
Nasreen.
Thank
Love
you
to
so much.
Mahmood.
Yes,
Nice to
thank
see.
you.
Anita, nice to see you.
Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah.
I'm going to be on Galliano at the beginning of July if you happen to be there.
I'm going to be there. I may be there in the beginning of August.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh,
We'll
that's too
email.
bad. Yeah. This is we're talking about Canada. Yeah. But I mean, if you become the 51st state, I mean, then, you'll be able, we'll be able to go back. Oh, that's horrible. Uh, hey, so anyway, I think we should go and
Good night, everyone.
good night and see you next week. But as what's going to happen is Darwin's going to get into some of the things that we buy into that get in our way and frustrate the love and the things that we get ourselves into and how to get out of them. So, yeah. So I look forward to that. Anyway, much love.
Much love to
Jai
you,
Baba.
Jai Baba, Jai
Jai
Baba.
Baba. Yeah.
Thank you.
Night, everyone.
Thank you.
Night. Thank you.